Hello there, and welcome. This anomaly is kind of difficult to discuss because I wasn't the teacher in this situation. I was the student, and I experienced it in a strange way that I still don't know quite how to process. So let me set the frame a little bit. I was in graduate school. I was getting my master's in creative writing at New Mexico State, and I had a teacher that I admired, an excellent teacher. I'm not going to say his name because perhaps he'll come across as kind of in the wrong in this anomaly, although maybe not. I really leave it up to you to decide if he was in the wrong in this anomaly. It was a standard workshop setup, although the criticisms and the discussion got quite a bit sharper in this particular graduate workshop than in most of my graduate workshops. Graduate workshops can be that way. They can get kind of fierce. And this one definitely did. And it was partly because this instructor tended to be pretty blunt and pointed in the things that he said. Take that as you will. I had written a story about a young woman who was raised in a certain religious background and who is involved in a sexual relationship that she feels really guilty about. And in the story, a friend of her family's asked her to come help him do some work in the mountains. And the title of the story was Engine Braking. And so the friend of the family, and her friend too, was a man that stood sort of in the stead of a father, except that he wasn't her father. He was just this friendly person who didn't necessarily read what was going on with her or what was happening. But anyway, in the course of the story, she sees him working, and she's working with him and listening to him talk, and she becomes convinced that the relationship she's in has to stop, that she thinks it's the wrong relationship for her, that she's doing the wrong thing, and that it has to be over, it has to end. And part of the impulse of the story is that she's thinking, it's just wrong. My heart is telling me what I'm doing is wrong. So that's the story, okay? Now, of course, it was based on some experiences, some of them mine. And so they read the story, and they discuss it. And this is a thing that can happen in any classroom. In writing classrooms, it's more apt to happen, but it can happen in any classroom. It can happen in a history classroom. It can even happen in a science classroom, although it's less likely to, but it can still happen. So as the discussion goes along, instead of actually talking about the work itself and about the content of the work itself, the discussion veers into morality. And the discussion begins to debate whether or not the girl's morality is based on a lie. Okay? Whether or not it's appropriate for her to feel guilt about this relationship. So this is a morality discussion. It's not a discussion of the story itself. It's a discussion of whether or not believing extramarital affairs are not right. Okay. I'm even struggling now to wrap my head around the discussion, because this was the portion of the discussion where I, as the writer of the story, was not allowed to talk. And I realized as the discussion went along that it was becoming less and less and less about my story, and more a debate in the classroom about what is moral. Now that's a hard debate because people, this is a values thing. And people have strong feeling about their values, and them's fighting words, okay? The discussion got more and more heated, and especially with one of the women in the room who felt like the professor was saying that the girl in the story was wrong to feel guilt about something. And he was saying that the writer shouldn't treat that as if it's right. The writer should make it apparent to the readers that the girl is wrong in her assumption about this. That's what the professor was saying. And this student, who was almost his same age and an experienced woman, was going, now wait a minute. Why is the author obligated to evaluate the morality of the character so that we, the readers, understand that either the writer does not align with the character, or the writer is neutral and you can decide if the character is right, or if the writer aligns with the character and says the character's right to think this is the wrong thing to do. This is the fight they were having. That's a big fight, and guess what? It's not solvable. You cannot do it in a graduate classroom. You can't. It's not possible. Because it's a personal decision about your morality, okay? I think the professor was wrong to phrase it the way he did because he was putting a litmus test on the morality of the writer, me. Now, I liked him as a writer. I thought he was funny and smart and a pretty good teacher, but I thought he was wrong. And I still do think that he had a certain attitude about a certain type of person. And he couldn't see that his attitude was trying to assert itself over an art form. And trying to pretend that there's a neutrality in art all the time, which, all of us who are involved in art know. Art is not usually neutral. It usually has a morality it's embraced, and it presents that in its expression. Now, the fact of whether or not you can see it, the fact or not whether or not you're judging it, is a different matter. And so this discussion got really hot. And so when the professor finally allowed me to talk, nobody else was talking. Everybody was mad. Everybody. Except me. Because I was like, well, professor, I respect you and I value you as a teacher, but I just don't agree with your take on my story. Plus, he'd also said that this was pretty cliched stuff, which I was still stinging from. My life is a cliche. My friends' lives are cliches. No, they are lives. So, yeah. Anyway, the next time I came to class, the woman who had gotten so mad at the professor had not only quit the class, she quit graduate school. I hope that it had been coming and that her decision to quit was exactly the right one, that she found a better way to pursue what she wanted to do, or maybe a better subject area, maybe a better set of people to work with. But I hated to think of her quitting the room, and it didn't seem to bother the professor at all, so probably he had a proper attitude about it. There was nothing he could do about it, I suspect. But I've never forgotten that, and I've often thought about, I wonder what happened to her. I wonder where that all ended. I'm sorry that my story was the catalyst. It was certainly not intended to be. You never know. That's it for today. Rather strange anomaly. I hope you have a terribly delightful and peaceful rest of the day, and I hope you see me again, you gorgeous people.